Welcome, welcome, welcome to another edition of the Empower Hour. I am Alqamar. This is my co-host,
Hanifah. Sorry.
And we are here with you every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. where we take important, impactful topics of discussion and we hash them out each and every week for 1 hour. And so here we are with another Empower Hour. So we're going to do what we always do, which is jump right into where we are. The topic of the day's show, by the way, is on corporal punishment. Should we be beating and spanking our children? So we're going to hash that out. And of course, we need your help, Facebook family, to make this a lively discussion, an interesting discussion. But before we do that, we want to show you guys where we are here at the beautiful Elife Media Studio. That's located inside the Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge, 9185 Central Avenue in Capitol Heights, Maryland. Everlasting Life is a all vegan restaurant. So full-fledged restaurant that you can get all types of great food, great drinks, desserts, popcorn, and other things in between. We even sell things here like health-conscious DVDs and herbs and alkaline water and seeded watermelons. So you can get all that in right here, this one-stop shop. Outside of this restaurant, Everlasting Life has two other restaurants in the DC area, which is Evolve and Vigoritos. They both are located in the Tacoma Park section of Washington, DC. You can get the same great tasting food there at those two restaurants as well. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to jump right into our discussion. So, some of you guys may be familiar with this face. This special guest. Do we call him a special guest?
I don't know. Special.
With the quotation marks.
Yes.
The special guest in the studio. The one and only Mr. Irritated Genie has joined us here for this discussion. It should be an interesting one because, I have a confession.
What?
I have a confession to make. Before we started on this journey to actually do this particular topic, you and I were really like on the same course, right?
Yes.
But the more I dug into this topic and was doing some research and kind of doing some more thinking on it, now I'm like kind of on the fence.
Are you?
Yeah, so this should be interesting. So I'm going to be playing more so the devil's advocate or kind of the middle person in this discussion here, because I know you are staunchly for corporal punishment.
Got the belt on right now.
And Sister Hanifah is against it.
Yes.
Altogether. Well, me, I'm kind of playing both sides. I'm kind of in the middle. I used to be, and it's funny because I used to be for it in my earlier life. And then I talked to other people, and then, they had convinced me of some other things that I never considered. And then I swerved, and I was like, well, maybe that's not a good idea. But now, here I am again, back kind of somewhere in the middle. So I'm kind of wishy-washy on this topic. So, okay. What do you have anything to say to get started, to share? Or why do you feel like...
I actually think we should start with the argument of why.
Okay.
You think that it's okay.
Okay.
For me, and this is growing up for a few reasons. One, I came from a family that was from the South. And it was I have to be honest, I had a non-abusive family. I don't ever remember, to this moment, I know somebody used it, but I've never heard a person use the N-word in my whole family ever in my life. I know it sounds weird, but I don't ever remember hearing anybody do it anyway. Dark skin, light skin, never remember one statement ever in that kind of stuff. So, but at the very same time, if child got out of line, it was just understood. There was no question about how the adults would deal with it. It was 100% policy. You're going to respect adults. That was how our family was. And if you didn't, if you got out of hand, I remember one time I got out of hand. One time my grandmother, I remember having to spank me. Woo! I ain't forgotten it today. I was about 4 years old. And I still remember that thing. But it worked. And then growing up in D.C. and seeing the difference, and it is my perception at least. The people like myself who grew up with a mother from the South in D.C. that had that corporal punishment, we were less likely to get locked up because we understood that there were consequences for behavior. Now, I can't say that that's actually a fact. I didn't do any research or something like that. I just know, like, my friend Robert, he got that. I got that. You know, most of my friends that I hung out with, we got that, and most of us did okay. Where we saw other people around us that wasn't getting that type of punishment from their families. You know, they would get the timeouts or this kind of little stuff like that or whatever. Because of it. And it didn't work. They ended up going, not realizing the consequences were real. And most of them got locked up or just went way wayward. I think that in the modern context, particularly for boys, but even for girls, with our youth being in an environment like America, there needs to be some early deterrent, very physical, because we're in a physical society that will violate you physically to behavior. Here's a physical deterrent. If you do something wrong, you're going to face a consequence. I think it's really important to give to children because I think it's in this country. I think it's absolutely necessary. And I think when we don't do it, I think some of the ramifications are that in a society where you can make mistakes in most places and it wouldn't be a big deal, you can't really make those young black boys and girls in this society. You make a mistake, nobody's going to give you a second chance. And I think that this helps. I'm not sure, but I think it does.
Okay, all right. Well, there's one argument. Hanifah, why do you think we should not? Before you get started, I just wanted to define what corporal punishment means. I looked up the definition, and one definition is physical punishment such as caning or flogging. So physical punishment, any punishment that involves physically putting your hands on another.
Can I just say a caveat? I don't be clear. Now, I ain't with no caning and stuff like that. I'm not.
I mean, but that's the definition.
Well, let me say the corporal punishment that I'm comfortable with is the one I received, which is called the belt, like a nice belt thrashing.
Okay,
it's still using a tool, though. I mean, that's pretty much what they're saying. I'm against it because it doesn't work. I think the idea that if it had not been for, this is my mic?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Hello?
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay. The idea of if I didn't get whooped, I wouldn't be where I'm at in life is crazy to me. You know, because there's a lot of people sitting in jail right now. There's a lot of people destroying our communities, selling crack in our communities. There are a lot of people committing violent acts in our communities who have been whipped their entire life. So that argument right there, I to me, it's just flawed. Like, it has no real basis, right? It just doesn't work. It doesn't work, and that's just from me making my own observation through my own experiences. You know, it just doesn't work. Actually, I've seen it done more harm than good, in my opinion. So that's pretty much. And then Jeannie mentioned something as far as black children and making sure that we discipline them so that you're pretty much saying so the world don't discipline them. Okay, so in other words, what we're saying is we need to hurt our kids in order to protect them, and I can't agree with that. So that's pretty much my stance on it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm in the middle is because I think about like nature. I'm a strong believer that we are part of nature. You know, we are creatures of nature. And I look in the animal kingdom, and I ask, how does the animal kingdom discipline their young? And I've seen lions and bears and things of that nature lash out at their young when they get out of hand. So that sticks with me. So I'm like, so if this is a natural occurrence in nature, is it really such a harmful thing for us as well? Now, I do believe that it can get out of hand. I believe that in a lot of instances, we we spank and beat our children out of anger, out of our own personal anger as adults.
Most of the times.
And that can be dangerous. So that is where I kind of draw the line, as you know what I'm saying, it not being a healthy thing.
I'll say it like this, because a lot of it I'm drawing off my own experience.
Mm-hmm.
I can honestly say it helped me. Like, I grew up in Southeast. We'll do anything. I mean, like, I don't mean anything negative. I'm just saying we were young people that we were adventurous.
Mm-hmm.
The notion of getting a spanking stopped me from about 70% of the stuff that I would have done that wouldn't have been appropriate. I'm just gonna be honest. I knew my mother wasn't having it, and when even to the point I pushed her. Like, sometimes I'm gonna go and push the envelope. I'm supposed to do this, I'm not gonna do it. I'm supposed to do this, I'm not gonna do it. And I pushed the envelope till it got to the point, and my mother will finally break, and I get that spanking, and guess what? I can even honestly, I remember, for the next 2 weeks, I would be like the most diamond child you ever seen in school. My teachers be like, wow, what's going on, man? I got that whooping this weekend, Joe. And it get me right back on track.
However, with that being said, then there's still other instances where people like myself, my mother did most of the physical beating. My father hit me one time my whole life. But I had so much respect for him that I obeyed his commands because I didn't want to disappoint him. And so I'm with Hanifah when she says, like, doesn't even work because, I was able to be on I was going to say the straight and narrow, but
I cut up.
Yeah.
I got whoopings and I cut up in my teen years. It did not stop me from doing certain things. Now, I think it's more, it becomes an issue of respecting that person who is inflicting the pain on you. You understand what I'm saying? It doesn't necessarily mean in a broader sense of things that you're like, because in your mind you're thinking the person up the road, you're not thinking if I steal from them they're going to spank me because my mom beat me my whole life. I mean, that's not really the thought process. So yes, I was whooped as well. I mean, listen, my mom is a Caribbean woman, in and out. So it's 5 of us. We were all whooped. I probably got some scars to show that, But I personally, from my own experiences growing up the way I grew up, seeing the people that I grew up around, it just, all of us, I think, were hit. Every single one of us. Some of us more than others and more dramatically than others. Like some people got the belt. My mom had a leather belt. I was so happy when that thing kind of just collapsed. I mean, it took years, but I was just like, finally.
Yeah.
But she just found another one, and the newer the belt, the worse.
Yeah, the new ones, boy. You be like, nah, not a new belt.
That's a question I have about the whole switch thing. You've said growing up, you guys never had the scenario where the parent would make you go get the switch to beat you.
No, not in my household, and I haven't seen it like in my family, but it's something I heard a lot of when I moved to New York.
Okay, yeah, that's
Right.
kind of a staple in our culture here. What is that? Where does that stem from? I'm wondering, where does that really originate from? That we would force a child to go and get the weapon that we're going to use against them.
I would say this. I got to be honest. If we're talking, let me just say one thing before I answer that. One thing that is important, it doesn't work with every child. That is true. Like, I have 2 children now. It works better with some children than others. I know it worked for me. I would honestly say it was good for me. If we had to trace it back, and I don't have absolute evidence on this because I haven't studied it, but the logic in it, because when I go back to Africa now, I see it. There's not a lot of that in the places I've been. You don't see corporal punishment being the standard with children. There's a cultural respect. In America, we were enslaved, and so there was significant cultural corporal punishment for just being black and being on a plantation. I think a lot of what we got from those environments.
I would agree with that.
That was going to be my question. Is there any evidence of children in our community, being punished in that way before slavery? That's the question. Before that, and if not, then how can we not make the connection? How can we not? And then it's just like we say, for example, food, the way we eat, what we call soul food, right? A lot of it is connected to what we were fed. during slavery, and most of us just continue to eat that way. And so most of us are trying to rid ourselves of those things, right? A lot of things that were kind of forced on us during, you know, the whole colorism thing, dark skin, light skin, all of these things we're trying to shed. When it comes to corporal punishment, we fight this thing. Because we're like, no, this is, you know, it's almost like some black parents don't feel like they're black enough if they don't beat their kids. It's that serious.
Yeah.
You know, oh, you're doing timeout, that's Eurocentric. No, I actually think whooping your kids to the degree that we do is Eurocentric, and we don't realize it.
Yeah.
Because where does that come from?
I'll say this. I can definitely appreciate the logic in that. But realistically, like, I'm looking at where I grew up and how we grew up. If my mother, because I didn't have my father there. Now, technically, if you have your father there and your mother there, it's less necessity to do that because boys and girls are going to be more afraid of the male than the female in most cases. So you're going to be naturally inclined to be less out of control. But honestly, I'm sitting there being realistic. If my mother did not spank me, I would have had problems. Because, see, that threat was a real threat. It was all this, you know, sophistication and ideology sounds great. I knew that if I went too far, my mom was going to get that belt. Psychologically, I didn't want it, and physically, I didn't want it. So I checked my behavior because of that, and it's had a benefit for me. And so I see the same thing with, like, I have two children. I have she's about to be 6-year-old and a 4-year-old son. My son only had to have him like once. He has the respect. He doesn't want that kind of thing. It's very, very seldom happens because he understands that is a possibility. My daughter, it doesn't work as well. Because she's just got to the point now, when I come to have to beat her, she just toughens her face up and I beat her and she's just staring at me. I said, okay, this is not working. So now I have to adjust and figure out what I can take from her. But if that threat was not there, where they knew daddy was serious and that there would be repercussions, or particularly when I'm not around. When my wife is there, they'll push her to the nth degree until she goes there. When she goes there, then they start to, or when she brings up, hey, your daddy come over, I'll tell him, you know what's going to happen. But ultimately, at the end of the day, they know that there's a physical consequence that comes into this.
But I'm wondering too if that's a temporary fix or is that a permanent scenario? And I see your questions too. Yeah, I'm gonna come to you guys.
I have
Facebook.
So many like questions to throw out there. Like, okay, most people will say, oh, the child is too big now to be getting whoopings. You know?
Yeah.
And so my thing is, this is a child we are talking about. A little human being that we're supposed to protect, that can't protect themselves, that don't have a voice yet. Like, these are little human beings. We will get in trouble. Jeannie, if you put your hand on your wife today, you will be probably arrested for domestic violence.
That's right.
If she does not do something that you don't want her to do, why don't you just slap her upside the head a couple of times so she can get in place? Why is it not okay here, but it's okay for a child, the least among us? Why?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, this is the thing, and I understand your perception that it's abusive. And again, I'm just being honest. Well, I mean, you're not using the word abusive, but yeah, it is. When you say, "Well, I'll just slap your wife upside the head," that's called abuse right there. That's what it says. But
for your wife.
Right. I'm saying, but nobody just says, "I'm gonna go slap my son upside." Like, I don't just go grab my son and smack him upside the head.
We do though.
What warrants that?
We do though.
And that's abusive. That's abusive. If you're just gonna go and smack your son upside the head, that's abusive.
No. What does he have to do that warrants pain being inflicted on his body? What?
He has to do something when he said, look, either you knew you weren't supposed to do that, and what you're doing can be very dangerous. And so I said, okay, I'm going to let you know that this is serious, or be completely defiant. Because see what's happening in this society, and I'm just be honest, we got to look at it. Look at the young people in these streets. Look at the way they're talking look at what we have is a bunch of parents who, quite frankly, don't believe that children should have discipline.
No, that's not true.
Not true.
A lot of us are getting beaten.
I work in a foster care and adoption agency, and I can tell you right now, our kids are coming in at an alarming rate and it's connected to physical abuse. And a lot of times, it's not parents that's malicious in it. It's parents who it has built over time. You start beating a child at 2-3 years old, okay? They get older, they get bigger. You start the punishment changes, right? The intensity of it changes. They get to a teenager now, 13, okay? Now they're still acting out. You're not trying to get to the root of why your child is acting out. You decide to put your hand on them. CPS is called because they go to school with a bruise on their face or something. Now the foster care system has your child. I see this all the time. Our kids are not acting out because they're not getting. I completely disagree with that. I see too many young parents beating their kids without self-control. And I'm one that disagrees where people say, "Oh, you shouldn't hit them in anger." Then why are you hitting them if you're not upset? I'm confused because my 5-year-old son, if I'm calm, I don't think about putting my hand on him if I'm calm. You know what I want to knock him upside his head? When I'm frustrated, when he's not doing what I want him to do, which becomes an issue of control.
That's a good point. If you guys are just joining us, here at the Elife Media Studio, our discussion today is on corporal punishment. Should we be beating our children to get them to do what we want them to do? So that is the discussion, the topic of discussion today. If you want to call in, our studio hotline is 240-455-5934, 240-455-5934. What happens to a child who gets hit a lot by their parents?
Again, I would say this, for me, there is a difference between abuse and corporal punishment. You can be corporally punishment and it can be abuse, but just because you get spankings is not abuse. I can honestly say my mother was not abusive. However, I got spankings.
Okay.
And I'm saying I know that they worked for me. I know through coming up that it benefited me. And so I take that and use that as a means for what I do with my children, but I don't have to do it very often. But I don't think it's I look at it this way. If it was so bad, why is it that I have a good example. I was working with a sister down at Navy Yard. And she had started dating a brother and they were getting married. And she had a 14-year-old son. And now he got to the point where he didn't want to hear nothing she had to say. He was hanging out late at night with the wrong type of crowd and everything. And she asked the brother, "Look, can you take care of this for me?" So he went out and he spanked the boy. The boy didn't get no trouble or nothing like that. Matter of fact, he stopped acting out. But guess what? He went to school and I think he had a bruise on his arm or something like that. This is the first time the brother did it. And he did it because the sister asked him to, because he was getting out of control. And she saw he's heading to jail. He did that, and guess what? The CPS, the white folks jumped in. Now they taking her to court to try to take her child. Now he's doing great in school. He has no emotional issues or anything like that. He got one spanking. So if it's so bad, then why are white folks trying to take our children from us when we're doing it? Even though you see a situation like that, these are good parents. It's a man and a woman in the house. The brother didn't just do it out of no anger. The mother said, "We need to do something to stop him going this way," and he went and do it. Well, if it's so bad for the white folks, don't do nothing to stop us from destroying ourselves like that. Why are they jumping in, trying to tell us that we got to do timeout, which is their strategy? And I think if we look at that, look at the way white folks' children behave. "Mommy, you're effing this, that, and the other." Da, 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 da. I used to go to the store, and literally, we'd be in the black community, and sometimes some whites would be there. I remember the Giant on over in Marlow Heights, and some of the white children would just freak out and just start talking to their parents anyway. And I never forget, my mother would just look at me, and I'd be like, "I can't do this." But look at how Europeans act once they get older. And I'm going to say part of that is because they have this idea to let their children act any kind of way and do a timeout or something like that with no sense that there is consequences for behavior, and the rest of the world suffers and pays because of it.
Actually, there's a high percentage, and I mean, not, okay. So there's a high percentage of whites who are for corporal punishment, but they're mainly in the South, mainly. And a lot of blacks who are for corporal punishment in this country, their families either come from the South or, so you kind of, you're right, you have an idea of, there's probably a connection there.
Mm-hmm. The culture thing.
Yeah,
blendings of culture.
I think it's like 19 states that, when we talk about corporal punishment, for example, being introduced into schools. I grew up with corporal punishment in my school. You could do it up until 6th grade. Right. And so now you will see parents that are signing up for, black parents I'm talking about, for corporal punishments in school, and not realizing that black kids will be 5 times more than likely to receive corporal punishment in these school systems than their white counterparts,
Mm-hmm.
right? But we're still saying, you know, yeah, I'm for it. We don't even see the damage that what that would do if that's introduced into. I mean, really thinking about it, you introduce corporal punishment into the school system. Our kids are already suffering in the public school system.
Right.
But
Introduce corporal punishment.
But the reality of it, truthfully, it doesn't matter which way you do it. If you have no corporal punishment in the school, if you got whites teaching your children,
don't have any.
no, I'm saying if you don't have any corporal punishment, they're destroying your children, they're miseducating them, and your children are not going to be able to read or write or anything of that nature. If you introduce corporal punishment with whites in control of the system, they're going to beat your children unfairly. So I don't think, if you're going to have whites teaching our children and in control of our educational system, it doesn't matter whether we have corporal punishment or not. Either way, they're going to destroy those children.
I think a part of the issue is the way that we view children. I think that has to change. I mean, we love our kids, and I would never question anyone's love for their children.
Mm-hmm.
We love our kids, but
Right.
they're the least among us, right?
Yeah.
And so that's why I asked the question: why isn't it okay for if your wife is defiant, and wives can be defiant too, grown women can be defiant too, or she does something that you say not to, and she goes against your word? Why is it not okay for you to inflict pain on her, but it's okay to do it to your son or daughter? That's my question. Why is that okay?
And that's a good thought to ponder. I want to pull the Facebook family in on this discussion. Sharita Barry Pettis is watching. That's our friend from the area, and she has a few children's books out.
Yes.
She says, after reading Dr. Stacy Patton's book titled "Whooping Will Not Save Black America," I try my best not to hit my kids. Leslie Johnson says, that's my best friend. She says, how do you handle the falling out of a child then?
What do you mean, like a tantrum?
Like a temper tantrum.
Wait it out.
Yeah.
Wait it out. I just feel like we run to spanking because it's an easy fix.
Yeah.
We don't have the patience, and I can speak for myself as a mother. Like, it is an easy fix, you know. There's been times where I feel like, okay, if I just pop him, like give him not the pop, but the little flick.
Yeah.
Flick on the ear.
Yeah.
Or something. Maybe Sam don't have tantrums in the store or anything like that. But I mean, at home, if he's not moving fast enough, there's been times, you know, that I feel like I should just flick him. But sometimes if you wait it out, you know, and explain it to him, like, Samson, when you do this frustrates me. And then it sets us back because now he's making us late. And, you know, having those conversations, we don't want to do that, though.
Yeah. We
We want to be obeyed.
I agree with that. And I also think if there's concrete evidence to prove that giving children praise helps in the discipline more than the opposite direction, then why don't we do more of that then?
But if their behavior
Incentives
is bad, you don't want to praise bad behavior.
No, but no, of course. But
Which is
I'm
true.
thinking, like, if they're doing something bad, well, you know you better than that. You know, we know that you have, you know, and then bringing out all the beautiful things and qualities in them that they do possess to remind them of why they shouldn't be doing these bad behaviors.
That's great in theory and in practice. But what happens is you get to a point. In other words, what you're saying is totally fundamental, I believe. I do that with my daughter all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, then you know you're supposed to have a what? Queen's character, because she got her book Queen's Character. Now, are you acting with it? No. If you were, so she had to talk it out. But then she gets to a point. I mean, she's just a very. I got a little.
A Leo.
Her birthday's coming up, August 18th. This little
Leo.
Sometimes I get all this little fancy psychology and all that like this. She just look at me and throw something at me. Okay, I mean, she just. I didn't do nothing to make her like this. It's something in my little daughter. She just has her own personality. I don't know where this came from, but you throw something at me. Okay, you're gonna pay for that. Mm-hmm. Like, you're gonna know you can't just because you're angry and you've lost it with your tempered emotions that you can do whatever you want in life. Now, I'm going to spank you when you do that. But I'm not abusing you. What I am doing, though, is teaching you, yeah, you can get angry and have emotions, but that is not a way you're going to deal with it because there are ramifications that are coming back. So that before you go out there and try that with a police officer or another child your age and you get your teeth knocked out or something like that, you got to know it doesn't work that way. You do what you feel like, when you want to, how you want to, and all of us just have to sit there and wait for you to get, nah, it's not going to work like that. I mean, the way I was growing, the adult is the one that makes the rules, And the children follow them. Now, that does not mean that you can't have your own opinion.
Right.
You can't resist and don't think it's fair. I try to give my children plenty of latitude to do that, more than my parents gave me. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to make the decision, and you're going to follow it, and you ain't going to wait 20 years to do it.
Okay. Well, Carver Page had a good point. He said, I once read that most successful people in the world don't receive beatings from parents or guardians.
Okay, so let me just say this, because I think all of us here, okay, there are two things that, this is just my opinion, there are two things that's an issue here. There is the issue of we have to put into perspective is brain development. Okay, if you ever heard the first 5 years of a child's life, right? What they learn, what you put in, they take with them for the rest of their life.
The formative years.
Yes. Okay. So you start beating a kid from, let's say, really 3 years old, spankings, whatever we want to call them. I think what happens to a lot of us is that we're adults, right? And we don't see anything wrong with it because of how early it started. That's just my opinion, how early it started happening. The other thing that I also see is the deification of the black mother in our community. That can also be, actually be to our detriment. And I know as a woman, I'm probably going to get backlash for this, but a lot of us who were raised by black single mothers, right? There's this loyalty, this level of loyalty of almost not saying, it's almost like we are afraid to say when our parent is wrong. Okay, that's a big one that we have. There's this, we've deified the black mother in our community because of single parent households. That's just my observation that I see. Because I have spoken to men who have a lot of issues with women that are connected to their grandmothers, their aunties, their mothers, and the way they treated them and the way they were abused by them. And then we have brothers that grow up and they don't even want to look at a black woman. And we don't put those things into perspective. We just narrow it down to, oh, you just want to be with Becky because it puts you in a certain status. That's not everyone's story. A lot of our black men are angry at black women. And why? Because the first introduction of what a black woman looks like is who? It's our mothers. It's those that raised us, right? So that's the other part of it. That whole deification of the black mother, we have to get away from that. The same way I feel about, strong black female, strong independent black woman mask that a lot of our sisters wear. Like I have an issue with that too. Yeah. But that whole deification of the black mother is an issue. Because this is why we can't talk about these things. Because no one wants to openly discuss their pain towards, not you, Jeannie, towards the woman who have raised them, because the women who raised them have given their best because the men weren't there. So how do you talk bad about that person?
Yeah. Well, okay, hold that thought, because I'm going to loop back in and we're going to share a little bit more about what we do here at Everlasting Life and some of the important things that we have coming up. A lot of great things we have in store for you. Right now, if you are watching us via live stream on elifemedia.net, you will see all these wonderful flyers go up on your screen. The first one here is we are revamping the solstice. So if you guys are familiar with our first Saturday of every month solstice shopping bazaar we do here at the restaurant, where we take the dining in area, we fill it with all kind of craft vendors, we bring out special guests, and we have a really good time. Good music, good food, good shopping, good entertainment. Well, it is no longer called the Solstice Shopping Bazaar. We have revamped the whole day, and it's now called the Black Wall Street Renaissance. So yes, get used to the name. You'll be seeing it a lot more all around, the Black Wall Street Renaissance. We're kicking it off with a very exciting Customer Appreciation Day, and that is Saturday, September the 2nd, from 12 to 6 p.m. right here at Everlasting Life, 9185 Central Avenue. We have all kind of action-packed, exciting things prepared for the whole family. Bring the children out. The clown will be here. He'll be doing balloon twisting. That's between 3 and 4 p.m. There'll be face painting for the children. We're going to be giving away all kind of fun things, and even a mountain trips for 2 in the mountain. We're going to be giving that away. Live music. It's going to be an open house here for the Elife Media. So if you have any questions about coming inside of the studio and doing your own show, or just coming to check it out and jumping on the mic. We're going to have all that live and exciting and prepared for you. So come on out for that. Again, that's this Saturday, September the 2nd. That's the first Saturday of every month from 12 to 6 p.m. We also, over at Evolve, the restaurant in Tacoma Park, they do what's called a Deja Vu Thursdays. Each and every Thursday, you get a buy one, get one free real cocktail happy hour. That takes place between 5 to 9 p.m. Evolve is located at 341 Cedar Street Northwest in Washington, D.C. So again, get on out there for the happy hour, Deja Vu Thursdays. Fridays, we're right back at you right here at Everlasting Life in Central Avenue for our weekly dinner and a movie night. Each and every Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. we take a new documentary and we air it, and then we have a group discussion that follows. This Friday, we're going to be airing that hot topic documentary that's out right now called What the Health. Have you guys, I know you've seen it. Have you seen it yet? I've seen it. It's some good information. Good information. What the Health. You really want to come out for that. That's kind of on the lips of everybody right now. We've seen a whole uptick right here at the restaurant. A lot of new customers to come through the door specifically because they've seen that documentary and they're looking to, change their lifestyle because of it and their eating patterns. So, yeah, come on out and check out What the Health. That's this Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. And I believe that would be it. Okay, let's jump back into the discussion. Let me pull.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
This is something I really want to say.
Okay.
I think a lot of this, I'm going to be very unpopular when I take this statement.
That's okay.
It's going to be very unpopular. I think a lot of it has to do with the male-female dynamic. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to use an example. When I was growing up, there was a bully in my neighborhood named Meatball. And, of course, my mother was a female, so she don't want me fighting and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, he just used to bully me, and I just didn't know exactly what to do. And I never forget, Mr. Moses came over. And I was talking to Mr. Moses, and I was really mad about this dude. And Mr. Moses was like, well, can you beat him? I said, I don't know. He said, well, just pick up a bottle and bust him upside his head. I never forget when he said that. I was like, yeah. And my mother was like, oh, no, but he's going to go this. He's going to all this. My mother was all nervous and all this stuff. But Mr. Moses was like, look, this is how it is out here. You got to do it. I never forget. He got me, and then just one day, he on the playground, I forget what he did, I don't even remember. But it's a legendary story about Marbury Plaza. Anybody watch from Marbury Plaza, this story goes down in history. I just lost it. I went in the house, got a bat. My mother was like, what you doing? Nothing. I want to play baseball. Walked out the house with that bat. And I turned the corner to the playground and started running after this guy. And everybody left the playground. He ran up the tree. Because it was like, I had lost it. It was clear, I was screaming. But at any rate, after that time, I never had a problem with him again. And it was because it wasn't no fancy psychology that was given. It was, look, the reality of it is, this is a guy that at some point you're going to push to the point, and when you do, if you depend on what you got with him, you're going to have to deal with that. And what I learned from that is, men deal with things different than women. The reality of the world that we live in is, the truth of it is, at some point things are going to get physical. And as a man, for me, again, I got children. I don't want them thinking that they can go out here and do anything they want. It's not an emotional thing. I don't want you to think you can do anything you want and say whatever you want. The world don't work like that. When I was growing up in D.C., if you talk too much, one of the young people your age gonna punch you in the face. That was the law in D.C. If you run your mouth too much, you're gonna get stole. Happened plenty of times.
Okay. All right. That's an interesting point. Again, that's why I say I'm so in the middle with this discussion, because I can see both sides. I really can. Wasita says, hey, Wasita, I believe each child is different and each case is different. There are times when you just have to spank. And then Thalib Nasir, he says, beating your child is from slavery. It is about control, which is rooted in fear, and the absence of knowing cultural child raising.
It is rooted in fear and control.
That goes back to another question I had, and it was, should a child fear you, the parent, or respect you enough not to want to disappoint you? Is there a difference?
I would go with the respect. It's sort of like you were saying with your dad.
Right.
Where you're sort of like, I respect him enough, I don't want to disappoint him.
Right.
But you have to build that relationship. I mean, I'm looking at my son who is really young. I don't know if it's going to change, but I can talk to him about something, and if I specifically would say, that hurt me when you said that. Oh, I am disappointed in you. You know, you see his face because he starts to cry because he don't want to disappoint me. You know, kids going to school sometimes. I watch my godson with his mom bringing home good grades. You know, because that's celebrated. It's like she's disappointed in me. That's my mother. I don't want her to be disappointed in me. I think I will go the respect route versus being afraid of it. Because guess what? I also think the corporal punishment, for example, right? A kid knowing that they're going to be whooped, you're just setting that child up to become a big fat liar to you. There will be no conversation, no honesty. For what? What I already know what you're going to do to me. I watched my 9-year-old godson. We talked about this. Go through that. He's 9. What? And it'd be little things that in his mind he's going to get in trouble for, which means I might get popped. I might, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think about the other kids, and my friend don't even put her hand on him like that. She actually stopped altogether.
Right.
You know, but it just introduces a whole lot of other things. I agree, it is rooted in fear. Because what you're saying is, I don't want you to go out into the world and do A, B, C, D.
Yeah, and when I think about my own personal scenario, I didn't fear my father. I respected him to the utmost. And what I think he did he was psychoanalyzed. So he would say some things that would make me think. And, you know, when I did some things that wasn't appropriate in his eyes, he would say things to me that would actually make me stop and think. And so I think in that instance, it helped me too to build a sense of being able to critically think about what I do and the repercussions and the consequences of them, as opposed to somebody coming to me with a belt saying, you shouldn't have did that, I'm going to beat you now. And now you're going to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Next time I'm just going to make sure when I do it, I don't get caught.
But see,
right.
Well, but
right.
Going to the person's question, I'm going to say it's unfair, I think, to make the assumption that every child is going to respond the same way. And the reason I say that is because, you asked the question, well, should they fear you or should they respect you? Well, the same thing with, like, I'm going to go back to the story of Meatball. Shouldn't he have respected me enough not to be a bully? Yeah, that's fine. That sounds great. It don't matter if he respects me or fears me, as long as he don't bother me. So the thing is this. You have children, if they have a reasonable environment and it's comforting and want, most children, you don't have to do a lot of beating and spanking with it. It's not even necessary because they do that. But the truth of it is, all children are not the same. And you cannot say that every child is going to respond to the same thing. And the truth of it is, some children are built in such a way, they're very rebellious and stiff-necked. And if you don't make them fear you on some level, they're not going to respect you.
You sound like you're talking about a mule. Like, okay, so my thing about it, my question is, okay, I have 5 kids, Jeannie, okay? So 2 of them are the description that you just gave, okay? They're just stiff-necked, and then 3 of them are not. Those 2 kids, it's okay for me to spank them. But the other 3, not so much? Do you know what you're creating amongst those siblings just by doing that?
You're not creating anything. Those children that are doing that are creating that. You don't.
Jeannie,
do you know what you're
spanking one set of kids and not the other?
Do you know what you're doing by letting these 2 out of control children get away with this stuff while these other 3 are doing the right thing and there's no consequences? So you know what? Why should these 3 keep doing the right thing all the time?
Why does the consequence have to be whoopings? That's my question.
And my thought process goes to, why are they even out of control though? Why are these children out of control to begin with?
This is 2017.
No, because we take a uniform. We take a uniform.
2017.
But everything has a root.
No, because we take a uniform approach. Huh?
This thing that we going on right now. If you're an adult and you look, forget that. Forget about TV. Okay, let's say you don't even let your children see the TV. When your child goes out that door, the stuff they're gonna be exposed to on people's phones, the stuff they're going to see coming across with different, the exposure of young people to the insanity of an insane world that we never had the kind of exposure to this stuff creates a different environment. And that stuff has an impact on young people. And you can't just pretend like, because we're raising them well, that when they get out in that world and see this stuff, that it's not going to impact them.
So you're suggesting that because But what about the children who are exposed to this kind of stuff too and don't get spankings, but don't get it out of control?
Back to what he's saying. All kids are not wired the same. You know what I mean? My thing is this: if a kid, like, just up your creativity. Why does it have to go to whoopings? Like, why? Why is it either or?
I'm not saying it's either or. I'm saying you don't always have to. Every child, again, my son, the likelihood of me having to spank him again, it's just so remote because he just understands and respects authority. He doesn't mean to do everything perfectly, but he respects authority. My daughter respects authority as well, but she's just fiery, and she gets to the point where she'll just go. I mean, she'll go so far left, I don't know where it's coming from, and I'm like, okay, this is going to stop now. And if
so they both have different personalities and characteristics and traits,
right?
So I don't know. Again, like I said, y'all, I'm caught up in the middle.
Deserving of whoopings and the other is not.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, it's like saying, why do you punish? That's like saying, wait a minute, if you have 5 children and 3 of them are great and 2 of them are bad, don't punish the 2 that are bad. That doesn't make any sense. I mean,
there are no bad children, though, to me.
I don't mean bad. I mean, they're doing something that's bad. Like they're doing something that's completely harmful to the house. They set a fire in the room. Yeah. So, okay, this child set a fire in the room. Mm-hmm. So what you're saying is, well, since you got 5 children, and these 4 didn't even know, they weren't even in the room, they didn't know he did it, that you got to punish all 5? No. The one that did it is the one that needs to know your behavior has even if it's not a spanking, you have to punish that one.
Punish all 5 for it. What you spoke to is all kids are not wired the same, and some disciplinary approaches work for certain kids, and it does not work for others. And my response to that is, what you're saying is, if I have 5 kids and 2 of them, right, the only thing that works for them is whoopings, and the other 3 doesn't work. So my thing is, there's going to be 2 kids in my home that's probably going to get whooped more than everybody else in the home, because we're saying that works for them. And I'm saying that creates some hostility between siblings, because it's like, well, she favored you guys more. It's so many scenarios that can come out of that.
Yeah.
You know, there's a level of like divisiveness to that, at least from my
Well, I want to, because, you know, I think, Hanifah, you brought up the question earlier about, did we use this type of punishment to raise children prior to enslavement here in America? So when we were in lands in Africa, and I went searching for some information, some research and some information on that. I really couldn't come up with any. So if any of the family are on watching and are stronger in this than I am, share that with us.
I can say this, but this probably goes more to your point. They did, but it was mostly in the places that had been taken over through Islam. So in the Islamic culture, they have that corporal punishment. But again, that's still not an African origin.
They'll beat their wives out in public.
So that's still not of African origin.
Right.
That's the point that you're making.
And what I do know is that I've read instances where the children will be isolated. So when in Africa, when the parents wanted to discipline the child, what they would do, they would shun them for their bad behavior, and everybody in the village would shun them for their bad behavior. They would feel so bad because now they're on the outside of, you know, the village. You know, not physically, but you know, everybody knew what you did, and they're, you know, chastising, and that made them feel so bad that they didn't want to do it anymore.
All right. And let me talk now. I've been to Africa, and I can. It's going towards your point, but I'm going to pull away from your point. I've been to Africa, and I can honestly say the children just don't. I mean, I've been to a lot of different countries, and they just don't have the inclination to be disrespectful to the parents. I mean, it's like the culture doesn't. So the need to give that corporal punishment doesn't present itself to much. But guess what? Those same exact people, when they get here to America, it's completely different the way those children behave. They're not the same children that they are when they're on the African continent. And 2, I saw this on O'Reilly, and I never forget seeing it. It was a PhD professor. He wrote a book. He said he did research around the entire planet. He said in every country he went to and studied around the entire world, Asian, African, Indian, everywhere, prior to Western media and propaganda, they had 0 youth delinquency issues. In other words, they did not have a classification for children and even teenagers being involved in youth delinquency.
I believe it.
He said in every instance, once they get access to Western media, the problem grows and grows. I got it on tape, and grows.
That's the solution. That's a solution
I
to what
agree
we're
with
talking
that.
about.
I would not
'Cause we're
dispute
saying,
that.
so you asked, so how do we discipline these kids that we're saying deserve that's one. The Western media, the television, for example, that's one thing that you could take out of your home.
Yeah, and okay, Doc, you wanted to say
I
something?
thought he did.
After you all finish.
Oh, okay. And my
That's 2
last thing is this. When we talk about prior to slavery, okay, I do think there's probably some Africans on the continent who do hit, even abuse their children for whatever reason, okay? So we're talking about prior to slavery, and let's talk about prior to colonialism as well, right? My thing is, my question then becomes, if we can't find any evidence of that, is it possible that as black parents, black mothers, black fathers, we have internalized negative stereotypes or negative predictions of us, of our children? Have we internalized that, and it now trickles into or seeps into the way we raise our children, which isn't fair? You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna beat this out of you. That defiant nature, and that defiant nature, my son has it. But the way I look at it differently. Yes, for example, I had a thought the other morning when I dropped him to school, because he's going back and forth with me in the car over the seatbelt. And in my mind, I was like, should I be whipping you? Should I be boxing you upside your head so this can come out of you? And I was like, no, because this is going to be good for something at some point in his life. It's for me to teach him.
Yeah.
I'm mommy, so I said, for your safety, you need to put the seatbelt on the proper way. Instead of just getting upset and saying, didn't you hear what I say? You just do what I tell you to do.
Yeah.
That's not teaching.
I'm wondering if so much beating is adding to the delinquency of our children here in this place.
Jeannie would say no.
Because, and then I'm going to say this, and I'm going to let Doc
The abuse,
get
yeah.
his point in, because we're running out of time here. Because I've seen instances, I know we've all seen them online, where the brothers would take to beating their son. I remember one thing, I watched a video, and the dude put boxing gloves on his son, teenage son. He was about 15, 16 years old. And the man looked like he worked out every day. And he got to beating this little boy to the point where the little boy was curled in the corner, nose bleeding, crying for dear life. And this man was going at him for acting up in school. And when I got to the comments, and I saw so many comments like, beat him. Yeah, I bet he won't do that no more. Yeah, I was like, oh my God, this little boy is actually being physically abused right now, and y'all are cheering this on.
Disgusting. You have the mothers
You're cheering this on. He bleeding through the nose.
But see,
that's
a woman talking about how men learn, and I'm a man. I'm telling you. Listen.
That's trauma, though, Jeannie. That's trauma.
You
and then when they grow up.
Wait a minute. You think it's trauma. What I'm saying is, I know young brothers. I know young brothers that'll come in here right now and say, look, I was there when it happened. So, I mean, I'm not saying I was there, but I heard these things happen. Mm-hmm. They was in situations very similar to what you're talking about. And guess what? Those men will come here and say, man, that was the most important thing that happened to me in my life, because I was going to, and I'm telling you, see, again, it's very dangerous when women start trying.
Somebody else said that on the stream.
It's very dangerous when women start trying to tell. Now, if you say the man did it to his daughter, okay, yes, we have a problem there with that.
Female body.
See, you don't understand how men learn.
Body is a body.
It's not about bodies. It's about how men learn.
Okay, Jeannie. I mean, Doc, what you got to say about
that? One, I think is a really good discussion. I appreciate you all bringing it up. I just wanted to make a couple of points. A lot of which you all touched on. You mentioned about the African culture. In African culture, there's a shaming, but there's also something else that maybe we're not familiar with, and that is where they love on you. So when you've done something wrong, the community will come and love on you, and and remind you, hey, I'm the one who, or I think they even use some instance where they bring up some really special experience that they had with this youth or with this person to make them say, you know what, I was really stupid. I really feel bad about what I did. I lost the respect and honor that I had. Boom, boom, boom. And I think that's something we need to look at. And it ties into something else that you all are saying. And also, as I reflect back on my history, I don't remember hearing about jails being built on the continent.
Come on, teach on that.
So they weren't building jails, and they weren't breeding criminals. They weren't breeding this behavior. So something was happening in that culture back then that we don't know anything about, because of course, big jails in America are big business. And I think we have to go into what you all said. We have to look at changing the society. And I don't mean changing the society as in let's all start voting and doing whatever. I think we need to remove ourselves. And when we remove ourselves, we need to establish an environment that is pristine, that will then address some of the things that you all are talking about. Because I know that children that are out, and when I've gone to Africa, they don't have the issues that we have here. They're not looking at television. They're not living this American life. They're not pursuing after this American life. They're good children. They naturally respect and honor their parents and their brothers and their sisters and their elders in their community. They're not like that. So there's something wrong, and we're trying to fix it inside of a broken thing.
I agree.
And so if we're going to stay inside this broken thing, then all of our answers are going to be to some extent broken.
That's right.
And I just want to say, definitely, that we need to have balance. I mean, I'm not a big fan of corporal punishment, but I do recognize I did it with my children. And I didn't do it, it was rare because I did it, and then they knew. And I also understood the balance, the need for the balance. So I'm going to really show you how much I love you when you do right. I'm going to really show you how much I love you when you do right. And you're going to be like, dang, that's what I get when I do right? I'm going to think I'm going to do that. So I think that's something else we might look at. And then I just wanted to say, another thing, and that is, and I think Jeannie can relate to this, and that is, there's something about beating that takes away a young boy's manhood. It causes him to not have his. It affects him, and I think that's something we should figure out psychologically. What happens when I beat a male child to the point where he's docile, he's quiet, he's in the corner, he's not messing with anybody, he's not doing anything wrong, I'm scared, I don't want to get beat again. And what does that do then to that man that we need him to become? Exactly. Later on. I think there's something in there, I'm not sure. But that was just my input.
I agree with that.
Good point. Good point. That was Dr. Baruch. The owner of Everlasting Life, the CEO and of Elife Media. So
the man. That's the man.
So yeah, that was his take on the topic.
I definitely want to go back to this thing. What I'm saying is it's dangerous because I'm saying men learn different than women learn, and to sit here, I'm saying as a man, I'm saying I've seen some of those things where brothers put on the gloves. And I've even been in those situations where you understand what's going to happen to these young brothers. I'll give you a perfect example. A young brother lived right across the street from me on Brandywine Street. People know what I'm talking about. This was a young brother I was working with. I put the gloves on with him. I said, look, you're not going this direction. But I ended up going and being out of town. Guess what happened? He ended up trying to rob somebody down at Eastover and got killed. But people said, dang, we could just had you with him a little bit longer. I said, I know, I was pulling in the right direction. And it was because I understood that the streets were pulling them in the direction. And the truth of it is, in this environment we're in, we can't act like we're not in it. In this environment, it's a real environment. When you do things, they have real consequences. And the way, particularly boys and males learn in this society, is to get those consequences, something that makes them chill physically before they get to the point where they no longer get chill.
We have a caller? Okay, let's get a caller in on this discussion. Caller, what's your name? Where are you calling from? You there? Caller, are you there? No? Okay, looks like we lost it. If you could call back, number is 240-455-5934. We do only have about 3 or 4 more minutes left in this discussion. Let's pull the Facebook family back in on the discussion. Let's see. I just want to make sure. Tessa says, women are so in their emotions at times. We cannot understand the logic. We get caught up in feelings instead of understanding growth comes with pain. It's like saying, why do we bleed when we give birth? I don't agree with that, but that's her opinion. That's her opinion. Let's see. Kenneth says, why is it that a lot of people only resort to corporal punishment only as discipline? So meaning what, Kenneth? Is there other forms of corporal punishment, you do it for not discipline, for other reasons. What? Give us some examples. Shala says black family has fallen because of the law in some states of hitting your child and encouraging children to call CPS or what have you whenever they get spanked. Black families have decreased in spanking their child because of fear of agencies taking them away or even going to jail. That's why there's no discipline in the household. Yeah, that's his point.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, again, I will go back to the animals in nature will lash out at their children when they getting them to do things that
My question to the animal, we will to wrap up, but the animal thing, we're going back to that, right? So why is it okay to pinpoint that? Right? That animals do this, but then when our kids do other things and they call animals for it, or they're treated like animals, we have an issue with it.
So you're saying we're supposed to be above?
No, I'm just asking because I hear that sometimes when we refer to the animal kingdom a lot when we're talking about human beings, but then when it comes to certain behaviors where we say they're treating our kids, our children like animals.
What I'm taking from her, what she's saying is, if you want to see if there's a precedent in nature that this is appropriate behavior, what you see is when the little lion cubs are not supposed to move too far out of the realm. When the one goes too far, because that father lion knows if they go too far, there's going to be some predator out here that's going to kill you. Yeah. So he comes and smacks you back over here and gets you behind back over here. He's not doing it to hurt the cub. He's not going to kill the cub. But
it's a protective mechanism.
It's a protective mechanism. And I think that there's, to some degree, those are realistic and legitimate, and we have to consider the reality that they can work.
Jeannie, if you're choking me out, I don't care what your intentions are. The fact remains you're choking me out. You're hurting me. I can't breathe. It doesn't matter what your intentions are. It's still pain.
Okay, family. I just want to get these last Facebook comments out before we wrap up because Wasita says Sister Alqamar and Sister Hanifah are Mother Teresa. So Mother Teresa, I love my sisters, but I agree with Brother G.
She thought that worked. She thought that worked. She got
all right, Wasita.
Come over here, you better know who boss. Let's go. That's my girl right there.
I want to sense with that one. Bo is also with you. He said, brother, speak on it. Tessa says, so true, love is and should always be the root, not forgotten as to why the lessons we experience at times are tough. Martial arts, what about that? How does a man develop as a warrior if he is soft and he could not confront violence? That's a good point. Well, there you have it, family. I mean, we're going to leave y'all to come to your own conclusions about this topic. It was a good, hearty debate on should we... Hardy. It was.
That mean we going at it up in there.
Corporal punishment. Should we be beating our children? So you heard it all. You even heard a fourth, message from Dr. Baruch. And you guys come to your own conclusions. And then that's it. That's it for our show. Until next week, we'll come right back at you with a whole nother hot topic, 2 p.m. Peace.